Excuse me? Excuse me, sir. How do I get to King Street?
Oh, dude, I love this stuff. I'm listening to the Stix.
One go. Welcome to the Stix episode 8. We are excited to get started.
Yep. All right. Starting off with our college football playoff predictor. I kind of kept it the same as Drew,
Yeah,
except I did move Ohio State down to 4.
of course.
And
Yeah.
then everyone else moved up 1.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't necessarily because of how they played against Rutgers, but I think ultimately Michigan and Ohio State are going to end up in the Big Ten championship. And I think Michigan's the better team. They proved it this past week, beating Penn State with an interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that would just drop them down to 4. I mean, I don't think they're going to miss it.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah, because the rest of their schedule seems pretty easy. I mean, and same with the rest of the schools. I considered putting Oregon and Washington in, but they both have to play Oregon State
and each other again,
and
most
probably
likely
each other in the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah,
and I think if Oregon wins, then Oregon might just bump up to 5. But I think if Washington wins, then Washington could have a chance at making the college football playoff. But I don't know. It's too risky to put now.
I feel like Florida State's kind of sitting pretty because they don't have a lot of tough games. Like this week, I think they play like North Alabama or something.
Yeah.
They play North Alabama, and then they have the game against Florida, and Florida hasn't proved to be a very good team. Mm-hmm. So, and Louisville, who's ranked 9th in the country, as we're recording, the college football playoffs haven't rankings haven't came out, so we don't know where everyone's sitting necessarily when it comes to 5 and after. But Louisville's a top 10 team in the country. I don't believe they are, but according to the committee, they are. But I think Florida State takes care of business. And Georgia obviously looked really good. They dismantled Ole Miss. I mean, it was never close. An Ole Miss team that I thought that's probably the 3rd best team in the SEC, or SEC West.
Yeah.
And so obviously Georgia deserves that number 1 spot. And we're going to have to see what the committee thinks about the Michigan-Ohio State game, because if one side gets dismantled, then they're probably going to drop out of the rankings because they can't play each other in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I did see. I did stray away from putting Ohio State at 3, even though I think that's where they should fall if they lose in the Big Ten championship. That's like their last game going into the playoffs. I did stray away from putting them at 3 because in the past we've seen Georgia and Alabama play each other in the SEC championship, and then also be matched up in the I believe it was either 2 or 3 and 1 or 4. I mean, it has to be one of them, but they strayed away from having them play back-to-back weeks, and they ultimately met up in the championship, and Georgia beat Alabama.
Yeah,
which I mean wasn't the outcome of the SEC championship, but which is cool. But I mean, I strayed away from putting Ohio State at number 3, even though I think that if they are 1 when they lose to Michigan, or if they lose to Michigan, I think that's where they should be. But I think I know that in the past they've strayed away from doing that.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Moving on, our college football big game recap, starting off with Mizzou versus Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee got
dominated.
Demolished. It was not close. It was not close at all.
An embarrassing loss for them.
Yeah.
Horrible. The final. Oh, sorry.
The final of the game was 36-7.
36-7.
There was no slowing down from
Cody Schrader
offense. Yes.
Is that his name?
Yep. I have Brady Cook pictured here on the left. He was 18 of 24 with 275 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, which, I mean, that's not anything crazy. But Cody Schrader, pictured on the right, 30,
205 yards.
yeah, 35 carries, 205 yards, one rushing touchdown, and he was also
Also,
Mizzou's
yep.
leading receiver with 5 catches,
Mm-hmm.
116 yards.
He
And I
got
mean,
he got so much work.
yeah,
And I mean, where's all the Joe Milton hype going? I mean, everyone talking about how good Joe Milton was going to be for Tennessee, and Tennessee wasn't going to skip a beat, and
hmm
they don't look very good. I mean, the two decent teams they've played, they've gotten dismantled by. I guess that they also and they play Georgia this week, so we're gonna see how
yeah,
that goes. I don't think that's the only good SEC game there is this week. All
yeah,
the
they're
other
not.
ones are really bad.
Tennessee's not looking too good heading into the final few weeks. Granted, they do play
No,
Vandy in the last week of the season, which should be a slight win for them. All right, moving on to the
probably.
next game, Michigan versus Penn State. I mean, it was pretty close. Honestly, it was closer than I thought. I knew it was going to be a big defensive game, but
Not a lot of
ultimately,
passing.
yeah, not a lot of passing. I believe JJ McCarthy only threw 8 passes.
Yep.
He
Didn't throw
was
a
seven.
single pass. Didn't throw a single pass in the second half.
Yeah, he was 7 for 8 with 60 passing yards on the night, which is kind of absurd based off what we've seen typically from this Michigan offense. But Blake Corum pictured here got probably all of the offensive workload, if we're being
Honestly.
honest. He had 26 carries, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And also Donovan Edwards tacking on the third touchdown of the night for the Wolverines. But on the other side of the ball, I mean, nothing was pretty. Drew Aller was only 10 of 22 with 70 yards.
And I mean, that every single big game Penn State has had, they just fail
Yeah.
to show offensive production. I mean, of course, Michigan's defense is outstanding, but you gotta be better than 70 yards
Yeah.
and almost not a little over 200 yards of total offense. That's just like you can't have that. And both the defense can't. Obviously, the defense is good. They prove that, but you gotta have more than a defense to win football games, at
Yeah.
least big football games. So Penn State will drop down to probably that 15-16 range, and they'll still manage to get Big Ten win, but it won't be against the big dogs. Of
Yeah.
course, they've
No.
already played the two big dogs already. So
Yeah. All right. Moving on, we have Washington versus Utah.
this
And
was
I
they
believe it
almost
was a
it was a one
close
score
game.
game, 35-28.
Yeah.
And the linebacker, I can't remember his name because it's quite hard to pronounce, but
Yeah.
he had a pick that
Alfonso
should have.
Alfonso Tupatala.
Yeah,
Tupatala.
I'm sorry if we mispronounced that, which he definitely butchered that. But yeah, he had the pick six that would have been probably the icing on the cake for the game, but he fumbles at the 1 yard line, and
Yeah.
I still don't get why dudes do this. Like,
It's not that
what
hard.
good? What good does dropping the ball do for you? And like, I don't understand why you drop the ball at all.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems stupid. And if I'm dropping the ball, I'm at least going to where both my feet are in the middle of the end zone. Because there's no point dropping it early. Like, you think you've been disrespectful, you think you look hard, but you look stupid at the end of the day because
You dropped it
you
short of
fumble
the
the
end zone.
ball. And that,
Yeah.
and to a certain extent, that also looks kind of bad on his teammates because there was a good amount of them that ran past that football.
Yeah.
You should be more aware. Personally, I mean, you should be more aware of the football. I'm not saying it's their fault at all. Obviously, it didn't matter in the long run as they still win the game, but you didn't have to be that stressful. You could have won by 2 scores, but at the end of the day, Michael Penix and Washington get it done, and they keep rolling. So we're gonna see if Washington can stand defeated for the rest of the year.
Yeah, some players from this game I do want to touch on is picture on the left here. We have Dylan Johnson, their running back. He had 23 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he was probably one of their biggest pieces on offense aside from Michael Penix. And then on the right, we have Roma Dunze, which, I mean, obviously, he had 3 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's one of the best receivers in the nation. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
He's always going
Yeah,
to produce. So, all right, moving on. Ole Miss versus Georgia.
not a
Like
good
Drew was
game.
saying earlier, it was not close at all. Like the entire game was not. It was like
52-17 was the final.
yeah.
And
Jackson Dart. I mean, he didn't throw horribly. He was 10 of 17, 112 yards, but he also had a pick. And I mean, they really had nothing going for them on offense. They only had 350 total yards. But
yeah, and
I mean, that doesn't sound too horrible until you see Georgia had um 611 total yards on the game.
and Brock Bowers comes with this. Brock Bowers came back for this game. You know he had to. Wasn't the leading receiver. Leading receiver was Lad McConkey. 4 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. Lad, you are a Patriot. Fits
Dude,
the scheme perfectly. So does Brock Bowers, to be honest.
yeah.
We're gonna see if Billy B decides to redeem himself for this draft class.
Yeah. One of the biggest players from the game was Kendall Milton on the left here, number
Mm-hmm.
2 in red. He had 9 carries for 127 yards. He averaged 14 yards a carry, and he had 2
That's
touchdowns on the
crazy.
day. But also, another running back, I believe his name is Dijon Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
He also had a pair of touchdowns to his name. So good job for them. And I mean, as Jude talked about, Lad McConkey. I don't know if you saw the clip, but he actually routed that man up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Like,
did. I did
like
see that clip.
it was actually disgusting. And if the ball wasn't underthrown by Carson Beck, it would have been an easy touchdown.
Yeah, he's crazy. I can't believe he's getting mocked for like the 5th round.
I mean,
I
he's
mean,
he's a phenomenal route runner.
he
Moving
is.
on to our college football favorite teams recaps. Game number 1, we have
Oh,
Duke UNC.
that
You
I
can
love that
you can
photo there on
talk
the right.
you can talk all you want about Carolina beating Duke and saying that Duke is a pretty good team, but um, you're going against a third string quarterback.
Yeah, who can throw the ball better than Riley Leonard can. So
He's still not Ryan Leonard. Um,
hey, we beat Riley Leonard last year.
you let you let you, what is up with Carolina and letting the third and fourth string rival quarterbacks go off on them?
I don't know, man.
Last year with Ben Finley, fourth
I
string
don't
NC
know,
State
man.
quarterback, and this year you got Grayson Loftus, third string Duke football quarterback,
Looks
3
good.
touchdowns and no picks.
No, he did not. Drake may threw a pretty bad pick earlier in the game, and I mean Carolina looked like they had it won there at the end with like 9 minutes to go. Duke kicks a onside kick on the kickoff and gets it. The second time that's happened to Carolina this year. It happened when I was in attendance against South Carolina. South Carolina did an onside kick for the opening kickoff for the second half and got it. So I mean, those are momentum shifters, and I mean, I don't know if anyone watched App State versus Carolina last year, but Carolina's defense in the last like 30, 40 seconds of a game is just the worst in the country. They suck.
Yeah.
And I knew this was happening. I knew this was gonna end up when Carolina had the lead with like a minute to go, I was like, yeah, it's over. Like we're gonna lose this game. And then to have to put it down to a kicker, like I hate that. We had pretty bad clock management towards the end of the game, and I did not think that Noah Burnett was gonna make the kick. And I don't know I don't know if you saw the kick, but if this was a field goal, the ball was like it went meow and curved and right inside. Like
That's crazy.
it looked like it was going wide, and then the ball must have gotten caught by the wind or something because it pushed right in there, and then Carolina ends up winning it in overtime after they didn't deserve it. And I don't know if I know the huge controversy because everyone says that Carolina is paying their refs. I mean, that's what happens whenever any
Yeah.
controversial call happens. They're just gonna argue and bicker. And I mean, but it was I don't know if you saw the interception or not interception. It was when Bryson Nesbitt, the Carolina tight end, went up to go catch the ball, and the Duke guy ripped it out of his hands, and they didn't even review it. I will say they should have reviewed it, but in my personal opinion, it's very biased, but I feel like he had two hands on the ball up into the ground, and even a tie goes to the receiver, kind of like how ties in baseball go to the runner. So I think that it was a fine call. I do think they should have reviewed it. Glad they didn't review it because without it, we would have lost that game.
Yeah.
So Amarion Hampton looks like the second best back in the whole entire country. 31 carries for 169 yards and a tutty. And he keeps on showing out, going up and showing out. And of course you have Drake May, 28 for 41, 43 with 342, a touchdown, two touchdowns with his legs, actually, so three total touchdowns and a pick. And Devontae Walker, 7 catches, 162 yards, and no touchdowns. And going back to my reviews, there was a catch that Tez Walker got on the sideline that was very, very obviously a catch. Like he caught it on the sideline, but it wasn't even close. They thought he had like gone out of bounds, and they reviewed it. I'm like, how do you review that, but you don't review anyway? Regardless, I'm rambling too much. Carolina gets the win. It's not pretty. We head into Death Valley this week. Hopefully, trying to pick up a win against Clemson.
Moving on, we have Georgia State versus App State, and App State was not favored in this game, but we started out this game on a 35-0 run.
It was not close at all.
Yeah,
I saw this.
I
saw.
It was a slaughter.
It was bad.
Joey Aguilar, picture here on the left, he was 14 to 21, 255 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he also added 20 yards on the ground. But the biggest performance, at least in my opinion, is Nate Noel, pictured here on the right. What a beautiful picture.
That's at Carolina.
Yeah, it is at Carolina. He comes back from injury and he rushes for 86 yards and a touchdown. But that's not the whole story. App State had 2 running backs with over 75 yards. We had 254 total rushing yards on the day. Like, it was just like we were just feasting on the ground, and Georgia State had no answer. Georgia State's quarterback, he had like 20 passing yards until the fourth quarter, where he finally picked up 115. But
yeah, like
App State was sticking it to him. We had 2 receivers over 90 receiving yards. I mean, it was nothing short of a slaughter early on. It was 21-0 early. We kept the momentum going into 35-0 in the fourth quarter. And finally they scored some points, with the final being 42-14. But I mean, it was a slaughter. So
and now Georgia State
and this clinched a bowl game for Appalachian State.
I thought they clinched last week. It's not. Georgia State actually has to go play LSU this week, so that's gonna be a rough one for the boys.
That's gonna be a scary one for Georgia State.
I think this knocks them out of this probably knocks them out of contention for the title game or the conference championship, right?
Yeah, I believe they're 3-4 now in conference play.
3-4? Jeez. That's crazy.
Yeah, App is 4-2 in conference play. And if we beat JMU and then JMU goes on to lose
game day, by the way.
Game, yep. Next week we play JMU. If we beat JMU and then JMU loses their rivalry week game, then App State goes to the Sun Belt Championship.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. can JMU even go to the conference championship game? Because the whole bowl thing
I
that
believe so.
that that feels kind of weird because I feel like if you I don't know I don't know I just didn't know. I guess they can win the conference. But there's no I guess winning the conference game doesn't do anything for bowls.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next game. Drew, were you at attendance in this game?
I was not at attendance in this game, but I was paying close attention because I was surprised. I was
You guys
surprised
put
it
up
wasn't.
38
I
points.
was surprised and I wasn't surprised, and I'll tell you why. So Charlotte, I knew that Memphis was probably gonna kill us like bad because Memphis is a quality team. They were sitting at 7-2 at the time, and they have some good players. So I was like, Charlotte's gonna get killed. And and to be honest, the offense was still pretty bad when it comes to the passing game. Chuck
Yeah, it's
Ivy had
for
4 picks,
Ivy.
but this kid Hassan Wilson never even taken a snap at Charlotte before this game. Wasn't even on the depth chart. You couldn't even see him on the depth chart if you looked it up on all the sites. Comes in, 24 carries, 198, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That is crazy. He had a crazy game. And now everyone's gonna know his name. And that's really cool for him. And he's only a sophomore. So we're gonna see if he stays here at Charlotte because once again, no one believed in him. But he finally gets his shot and he shows out. And they have a game against Rice this week at home, and we're gonna see if we're gonna see how he does in that game because this could be a hidden gem. This could be a kid that could help Charlotte make their program better.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm overhyping off one game, but still,
I mean,
they're
you
I
guys
mean, so
sitting
your
at
game.
3-7, you guys took looks to be a decent team to overtime. So
Yeah.
Seth Hennigan on the right here, he had a game. He had 329 yards, or sorry, on the left here,
Yeah.
329 yards and 2 touchdowns with one pick. But like 329 yards is nothing to be ashamed of. That's like
No,
he
not
was
at all.
balling. And then also on the right here, we have Chandler Martin. He had a pick six on the day. He had only one pick, one of the four, but he returned it 60 yards to the crib for a
Yeah.
tutty. So, I mean, Memphis played an all around good game, and Hassan Wilson on Charlotte played fantastic with 3 touchdowns. Moving on to our Heisman rankings. You may not like my rankings, but I actually don't care what you think about this because
Okay.
all right, number 5, Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, he was there last week too.
Fantastic year. He was number 5 on your list, but I don't think anything else stayed the same.
No.
Nope. I mean, there's
Okay.
some of the same names here, just not in the same spots.
Obviously.
Marvin Harrison with 59 receptions, 1,063 yards. He cracks the 1K mark and 12 touchdowns, which I believe is second most in the nation. I mean, he's producing at a high level. Ohio State's winning games, and he's a big part of it. Moving on to number 4, I have Jordan Travis. He has 2,734 yards, 27 total touchdowns with 2 picks. Very safe with the football. Michael Penix Jr., you may be like, Aiden, what the heck? He has by far the most passing yards, right? And 30 total touchdowns, right? But he doesn't protect the ball as much.
Yeah, okay.
And a big thing for me is he has like negative 20 something rushing yards on the year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know he's a mobile quarterback. Why doesn't he run?
Fun fact, he hasn't done a pick since the last time you said something about his picks. So I'm just saying.
7 interceptions is kind of crazy though.
It is pretty crazy.
Moving on to number 2, we have Oregon's very own Bo Nix, and let me tell you, he had a game last week. Bo Nix has 3,135 yards, 34 total touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Once again, very secure and safe with the football.
I think I know who's
But
number one.
you do know who number one is. And
Not even on my top
let
five.
me tell you, dude, this is
Mhm.
last week was his Heisman moment. I don't
Okay.
care if the team isn't ranked that he went against. Check the box score from last week. Jaden Daniels is my number one. LSU's 7-3, and they're ranked. Um, he has 3,164 yards, 38 total touchdowns, and only 4 picks. And
Mm-hmm.
check the stats from last week. Last week, he had 372 passing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And on top of that, 234 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky I didn't put his total yards because he would have over 4,000. He has almost 1,000 rushing yards on the year. I believe it's 919. Jaden Daniels is playing phenomenal, and you can keep sleeping on him just because his team isn't good, but they are ranked.
They are ranked, and I do think that I'm sleeping on him a bit, but I just don't think he's better than a couple of these guys here on this list. That's just my personal opinion.
They don't.
I still think that team record is a huge factor in these awards.
Okay, and
And
I agree,
yes,
but I've said it once
yeah.
and I'll say it again. Lamar Jackson won a Heisman,
Mm-hmm.
and they were
I'm
unranked.
aware. They were not. I thought the only two losses they had that year were against number 5 Clemson, like number 4 Florida State.
They lost to NC State.
Did they?
Yeah.
Didn't lose to Carolina. They sucked. Carolina sucked at that point in time.
Anyways, Jaden Daniels is my number one. You can argue with the wall. He is having a phenomenal year, and I mean, he keeps this LSU team alive. Moving
Yo,
on.
yo.
All right, so moving on to our week 8 big stories. Starting out, Mac Jones sucks. Let's all be honest. I've been on the Mac Jones train. I thought he was good. He shows flashes every once in a while.
So does Josh Allen.
But 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 putting up only 6 points. I don't even care if it's against the Colts, who have a good defense. Putting up six
Yeah.
points is honestly unacceptable. If you can't score 11 points in a game,
No.
and it's not even like we weren't even getting in a scoring position. We got into the scoring position late in the fourth quarter, and Mac
Yeah.
Jones throws one of the worst balls I've ever seen in my life. Mike Gesicki's wide open in the end zone, and he underthrows it by like 5 yards, and it gets
Did he get
picked off.
picked off? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, one of the worst throws of my life. And then we sub in Bailey Zappi, who
It was a
fake
pick.
spikes and throws it in a quadruple coverage. And he himself said he was trying to force it. Like I just don't. The quarterback situation in New England has never
Bad.
been worse. Has never been worse. Moving on. CJ Stroud is that guy. CJ Stroud is amazing. He leads a comeback drive or a comeback game winning drive against the Cincinnati Bengals, and as of today, he is sixth in MVP odds.
Was
And
it a it wasn't a game winning drive, was it?
yeah, it was
Was it? Okay. They
yeah,
were they were up. It was actually they were up by a good amount. They were up 20-7, and then the Bengals that came back. Sorry, I'm just looking at it,
yeah,
but I wish I could be a CJ Stroud hater, because it makes me feel better as a Panthers fan. But he does look good. I wouldn't. He did throw for 356 and a touchdown, but I believe he did have one interception, which like he only has two of those. So it is what it is. But I think he fumbled the
yeah.
ball twice. I believe he had two fumbles that he lost. So
Let
I
me check
guess
that.
just like I mean, it happens. But like I
Yeah.
said,
All right.
I'm gonna be a hater.
Huh. Moving on. Gregory Newsome gets the game tying pick six
Mhm.
against the Baltimore Ravens,
Ravens
which ultimately shifts the game, like the course of the game.
drastically, yeah.
The Ravens were up big on them too, and then the Browns came back and won. I'm honestly not really sure how that happened, but I saw a
I
stat
don't know
today. And it
either.
was the Ravens have the Ravens are third in
Mm.
NFL history with time trailing, like the least amount of
Uh-huh.
time trailing for through the first 3 game or 10 games.
It was like
And
7 seconds.
it was 51 minutes, I believe, is what they were like the third least amount of time trailing
Uh-huh.
um in NFL history, and they were the only team out of the top five that had a loss. Every other team was 10-0, and the Ravens are 7-3.
Okay, yeah.
So the Ravens just
They just
can't
choke
keep it
games
together in
away.
the end. Yeah, the Ravens just cannot keep games together. Moving on, Christian McCaffrey. Now, this isn't just about Christian McCaffrey. The Niners are back. They absolutely manhandled the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was not help from Christian McCaffrey. Actually,
No, he didn't score.
his touchdown streak comes to an end, not for lack of
That's
trying. They were
no,
trying
they
so hard
tried
on
so
that
hard.
final
Yeah,
drive. They gave him the
they
ball on
were.
4 straight plays. They ran it 3 times and passed once, and he dropped the ball on like the half-yard line.
They couldn't get it to him. It is what it is. They wouldn't convincingly. It would have been nice to have Christian McCaffrey break the consecutive games touchdown
Yeah,
streak, but it is what it is. I wouldn't necessarily say they're back per se, because 3 losses is huge to a team, and I think it's gonna take more than just a win. I think at this point they need to put a couple more wins together to really get back on the momentum train. Because I think this one just kind of evens out the slate. Hopefully gets that sour taste out of their mouths. The 3 game loss streak put
yeah.
there.
They did just manhandle a team that had the longest win streak in the NFL, though.
Yeah, but the Jaguars in the AFC South. It's not. I mean,
Who
they
cares?
don't.
Texans are good.
The Texans are all right. They're not good. They're all
They're in the
right.
playoffs. They're in the playoffs right now.
They lost to
Moving
the
on.
Panthers.
Moving on. Kyler Murray makes his first return in nearly a year, and I believe it was a
Wins.
comeback win against the Falcons. He wins
I
with the
believe it was.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
And as a Patriots fan, the only thing I'm thinking of is that's one less team to suck in front of us.
Hmm.
As of right now, the Patriots sit at the third overall pick, but Kyler Murray
They
comes
stood
back.
Panthers.
I believe it's a comeback win
It was.
over the
They
Falcons. Yeah.
were. Matt Prater hit a game winner, to end the game. Last
Mhm.
second field goal, 23-yarder,
Yeah.
and
So
he did good with his legs. He didn't have a passing touchdown, but he still threw for 249. Most of those
yeah,
yards going to tight end Trey McBride, who with Zach Ertz out is really really getting a good load of the offense. He had 8 catches for 131 yards, and I actually benched in a fantasy this week, so that kind of hurt it a little bit. Still got the dub though, but
all right.
Kyler Murray, who I actually also have in my fantasy team, did rush for, like I said, 1 touchdown. So he wasn't like the main. Obviously, he was huge for the offense, but they needed him back. And the
Yeah.
Falcons have started on the other side. The Falcons have started to go on the decline. They started off, I believe, 3-0. They looked pretty
They,
good,
they were 2 and 0.
2-0. And but then they just they've been winning some games they shouldn't and losing some games they shouldn't. And I don't like the way Arthur Smith coaches. He uses his good players as decoys to get other players open. Like there was a play where he used Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Jake London as decoys to get Scotty Miller open. It's just weird. Although I mean, Bijan Robinson still had 95 yards on the ground in that tutty, so I guess he's getting more I guess the Arthur Smith is listening to the fans and how angry they are because he needs to use his guys. There's three really good talents that are just getting wasted. So
Yeah.
is what
All
it
right.
is.
The final big story. The Buffalo Bills are mid.
Absolutely. As mid can get.
They're 5-5 right now and sitting at third place in the AFC East, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
like you cannot make the playoffs with losses on your resume, such as the New England Patriots, as much as that hurts to say.
Hmm.
The
New
Denver
York Jets.
Broncos, the New York
Yeah.
Jets, like
And
The Bills just look at Josh Allen's face right here. He knows
he
that
just
he
looks.
knows that like whatever's going on in Buffalo has got to stop.
Yeah.
And
And and
I don't want to be the one that says it's the Madden curse, but
it might be. I did see that. I did see that. I don't know if you watched the end of the game where the Bills were Matt or Will Lutz missed the game winner, but then they get called for 12 men on the field.
yeah,
That ball that penalty was called with 13 seconds in the game,
yeah,
which is crazy to me because if you know the Bills, you know that they're cursed with 13 seconds. The game winner against them with the Patriots was 13 seconds. Of course, 13-second drive against them in the Chiefs game a couple years back.
yeah.
Them and the unlucky number 13 are just they're not friends. And if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan sitting at home, I hate it for my team, man. I'd be cautious because the division is obviously still very winnable. There's still a lot of season left, but
Yeah.
you cannot play this poorly. You have to step it up. Is this two in a row or three in a row on their losing streak? I think it's two because I know they lost last week, but you just when I was looking at this game, I was like, this is an easy win for the Bills, and it
And
wasn't.
the Broncos
I
are on a
this
three-game
just
win streak.
I know. It's just sad.
With
And I
two of
like
those
the
wins are
Bills.
coming from the Chiefs and the Bills.
I like the Bills. And cuz Sean McDermott's a former Panther guy, but it's hard to root for him when they keep on losing these games.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure Aiden's chuckling inside because he enjoys the Bills loss, let's be honest. But for me, I hate it. They suck on
All
the
right.
road, by the way. They're 1-3.
Yeah, I know. They're not very good. Moving on to our power rankings. This is Aiden's power rankings, my power rankings. Starting with number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. Drew had
Big
them at
drop.
1. I was okay with them at number 1 last week, and then they dropped a game to the Cleveland Browns.
How you gonna
Um,
beat the? How you gonna destroy the Seahawks, destroy the Lions, and then lose to the Browns, who are 6-3, but still.
the Browns have a defense. That's why. Um, yeah, like I said, Cleveland Browns come in and beat the Ravens, who I believe were at home.
They were.
Um, so, I mean, that's a big statement win for Cleveland, but Baltimore drops to number 5. Moving on to number 4, the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're phenomenal. They're great. They just beat the Chargers, who put up 38 points on them, but still, they have what looks to be one of the best running back duos in the NFL. Jared Goff looks great. The Lions receivers look fantastic. It's really just the defense that needs work. But as long as they can put up points and win their shootout matchups, I mean, they're looking good.
I have a little bit of a rebuttal here. I just want to know your thought process with putting the Ravens at 5 and the Lions at 4, considering how badly the Ravens beat the Lions just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Everybody has off games,
That's fair. You know what?
and
I'll accept that.
David Montgomery was hurt that game.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that. I guess it's power rankings, not. I'll take
Not
that.
the NFL standings. Number
Yes.
3, the Niners. I mean,
Niners,
they
I
beat a
like.
they beat a pretty good Jaguars team this week, and it wasn't by a little bit. They
No,
beat them by 4 or 5 scores.
I like
Anyways,
it.
um, Niners are back. Drew doesn't think so. I think the Niners are back. I think they're scary. They held a pretty decent offense to, I believe, 6 points.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah.
number 3 spot. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, I mean, I believe they just had a bye.
They did. Come on from winning against the
So
Dolphins.
yeah, so really no movement for the Chiefs, but they did beat the Dolphins, like Drew said, and I mean, the Chiefs are going to be good. The Chiefs, I believe, hold the number 1 record in the NFL or in the AFC at
They
7-2, and
Yeah, and they have a tough game this week. I'm on that football against the number 1 team in his power rankings, I'm sure.
probably segue the
Yeah,
Philadelphia
there you go.
Eagles.
Thought you would catch me on that one. Apparently not.
I'm not that far ahead.
That's
Philadelphia
okay.
Eagles look fantastic. I mean, I like their defense is phenomenal. Their offense
Mm,
is phenomenal. Now, Jalen Hurts needs to protect the ball a little bit more, but once they
yeah.
get that down, AJ Brown's probably going to win Offensive Player of the Year. Um, I think he
Tyreek
will.
Hill? Tyreek Hill question mark?
Tyreek Hill's kind of fallen off a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
He leads the league in receiving yards.
Okay, but he was also up by like 400 yards. Anyways, AJ Brown is on one heck of a run. I believe it's like 4 or 5 straight games with 125 plus receiving yards. CeeDee Lamb is pretty close behind him too. He has 3 straight games of 150 plus, I believe. But Eagles defense is always good. Jalen Hurts just needs to clean up his act a little bit and he'll be good. DeAndre Swift looks fantastic. Now, Dallas Goedert is out, which is a little scary, but the Eagles wide receiver pair of AJ Brown and Devonta Smith is nothing to be like you should be scared of them. They're kind of scary.
Obviously.
They're
Yeah,
really
they're really
good.
good.
One of the best wide receiver cores in the NFL. But
Mhm.
yeah, I got the Eagles at number 1 in my power rankings.
I agree.
All
Don't
right,
think game I would disagree.
moving on. We got NBA. NBA's big story starting off. Anthony Edwards is cooking the entire NBA. He averages 28 points right now on the season,
Looking
which is
crazy.
it's higher than Jason Tatum, I believe. It's almost like I mean, he's not top 5. Everyone in the top 5, I believe, is over 30 points a game. But
Mhm.
Anthony Edwards looks fantastic for being in his 4th year in the NBA, I believe. Um,
I think that's right. 2019.
anyways, the Timberwolves are sitting at 7-2 right now, which is
Mhm.
a massive jump from them in the past. The Timberwolves are
Yeah.
typically not a good team, but they look
It's a
fantastic.
it's a big
Moving
part of um, you
moving on, the Sixers are really good. As much as it pains
there.
me to say that, they get rid of James Harden, but that also opens up more playing time for this man pictures on
Tyrese
the right,
Maxey.
Tyrese
Yep.
Maxey. He looks actually phenomenal over the past few games. Actually, since the season beginner. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, this Sixers offense, Embiid, obviously last year's MVP winner.
32 points average in this year so far. I
Yeah,
mean, he
and
looks good. The whole team looks good.
yeah, and Tyrese Maxey averages high 20s. I believe it's 26 or 27 on the year.
Mhm.
I mean, they look good. They sit at 8-1, I believe, and they have the best record in the NBA. Next
Yep.
is Kelly Oubre.
Oh my
Unfortunately, this
gosh.
past weekend he gets hit by a car. He breaks a few ribs. Um,
That sucks.
has like bruises and all that kind of stuff. Which this sucks because Kelly Oubre was having a great season so far. He was one of the most
He
underrated like
was.
role players in the NBA. He
Hmm.
was like averaging 25 or something like that.
Yeah, I think is it off the bench?
I believe
I believe
so.
it was. I mean,
And
he was a huge part of the Philadelphia team
yeah,
and
and
their
this just kind of
success.
sucks. This just kind of sucks for the Sixers and Kelly Oubre, obviously, but hopefully he gets
Prayers
better
out to
soon.
him.
And next up, I have one of the bigger headlines coming up. Victor Wembanyama versus Chet Holmgren. I believe they play tonight as of November 14th.
Yeah,
Um, I believe they play tonight, and this is the rookie battle that everyone's been waiting to see. Um, they both look
they
phenomenal.
do.
Chet Holmgren had 7 blocks in a game the other week.
Evan,
Victor Wembanyama, yeah, 7 blocks in one game. Victor Wembanyama is a freak of nature. I saw him hit a fadeaway in someone's mouth, but he's so tall he doesn't even have to do the fadeaway. He's just that skilled.
I think the main thing I have to say about Chet Holmgren is he really has to shave. Because this little goatee he got going on ain't working. Shout out Josh Palmer. But but yeah, Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama obviously are two guys that are, you know, unicorns. Shout out Kristaps Porzingis. But they they're obviously made in a factory, and they are the next generation of NBA player, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these types of guys. You know, these smaller bigs. You know, because if
We have the NBA power rankings. Starting out at number 5, the
Dallas
Dallas
Mavericks.
Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks. Sorry, guys, had a brain fart. The Dallas Mavericks. Luka looks phenomenal. Um, I mean, the Dallas Mavericks are sitting at 8-2 on the year in second place in the West. Um, Luka averages 32.6 points per game. I believe that's number 1 in the league, and if it's not him, it's Joel Embiid. But
It is Luka.
okay, um, the combo of Luka and Kyrie is something that is very, very pretty to see. Over the past week, they have a huge win over the Pelicans, who I think are one of the more underrated teams in the league with Zion back, and
Yeah.
they have also beaten the new Clippers, who have not won yet since they attained or obtained James Harden, which is kind of absurd to me because they have a crazy starting 5 now. Um, Yep, Mavericks are my number 5 team. Number 4, the Denver Nuggets. Why do I have them at 4?
Because of the Denver Nuggets.
Because they're the Denver Nuggets. Exactly, Drew.
As of today, they have the best. They have the best record in the West. Now they have lost. They did lose a game to the Rockets, who
They're on a 16 win streak.
I don't know if they're on this list, but it's very noted. I want to note that they are on a 6 game win streak after losing 3 straight, and they look good.
Yeah,
But
the
we're gonna keep that up.
the Denver Nuggets have wins over who Drew previously had in the um, top 5 in the league. They have wins over the Mavericks and the Warriors. Drew had the Warriors at number 3, I believe, last week.
Yeah,
Anyways, Denver Nuggets are my number 4. Jokic is, I mean, he's a triple double master. He dropped, I believe, a 36-point triple double last night. Yep. Denver Nuggets at 4. Number 3, the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics were number 1 for a while, and then they dropped 2 in a row to the Timberwolves and the Sixers, I believe. But ever since then, the Celtics have been on a 3-game win streak, and we swept the home slate, if you will, with wins over the Brooklyn Nets, the Raptors, and the New York Knicks. Um, I mean, yeah, Jason Tatum looks phenomenal, averaging 28 points and 9 rebounds. And then we also, I mean, we have other players on our team, you know, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White. I mean, this team is deep as a team can get, in my opinion. We have players that can come off the bench and give us buckets. Sam Hauser is shooting like Steph Curry on the year. He is. I believe he's over 50% on the year. Anyways, Celtics look great. 3 bounce back wins after our 2-game losing streak. Celtics at number 3. At number 2, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like I said earlier, Anthony Edwards looks great. The Minnesota Timberwolves are sitting at the 3rd slot in the West. And I believe it's all thanks to Anthony Edwards. He averages 28 on the year, averages 28-4 or 28-5, but the Timberwolves coming off of I believe a 6-game win streak. They look great. They have wins over the Nuggets, the Celtics, the Pelicans, the Spurs, if you want to call them a decent team, and the Warriors.
3-7. That's not decent. 2 of them coming against the Suns, by the way.
Yeah, the Suns are a trash team. Anyways,
yeah.
Minnesota Timberwolves are looking phenomenal, and it's not very often you get to see a good Timberwolves team, and we're lucky enough to be watching one right now. And at number 1, to no one's surprise, the team with the best record in the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year's regular season MVP looks phenomenal so far. Joel Embiid averaging 32 and 11, and Tyrese Maxey, I was wrong. He averages 29, or at least almost 29 points a game and 7 assists, which is very good. And like I said earlier, Kelly Oubre, who was a very good big part of this team, he was their 4th highest scorer, averaging 16. The Philadelphia 76ers with big wins over the Suns and the Suns, the Celtics, and that's about it, actually. The Suns and the Celtics. Anyways, it's not for lack of playing bad teams. They beat the teams they should beat, and they beat teams that are 50-50 balls. And Joel Embiid looks great. I believe he had a 40-point game, 40 or 50-point game earlier this week. Actually, I lied. It was Tyrese Maxey who had 50. He dropped 50 points against the Indiana Pacers, who honestly look pretty decent themselves. So Philadelphia 76ers are my number 1 slot.
All right, thank y'all for watching the Stix episode 8. We will see you next week in person.